Look, at this point, I don't even know how to react to Cantarella, who not only has huge potential, but also has an affinity to water to quench our thirst. So let's just actually take a look at this showcase and guide video like the true gentlemen and ladies we are, while I try my best to focus on breaking down what's so great about Cantarella and show you the best way to play and build her, so that you can beat the hardest content in the game. Quick disclaimer, the footage in this video is from a test server, so the stats and content shown here are subject to change. Okay, so Cantarella, what's so crazy about this character besides the obvious? Well, she's quite versatile, since not only can she deliver great damage, but she also provides healing and coordinated attacks. If that's not enough, you can swim super fast with her while in open world. It's a niche ability, but it's pretty hilarious how she can even start attacking with her jellyfishes when in water. But starting off with her normal attacks, she can do a 3-hit basic attack combo, with the last hit gaining her 1 stack of trance, which is her forte made up of 5 bars or trances. Now, by doing a hold attack, she goes into Mirage mode, which then changes up her basic attacks. It's still a 3-hit combo, but the animations are totally different. If that's not enough, if you press jump in mid-air while in Mirage mode, she can deliver this Abysmal Vortex plunge attack. But anyway, the reason why I want to fight in her Mirage mode has to do with these 3 little shiver icons. Anytime during Mirage mode, Cantarella hits an enemy with one of her basic attacks or dodge counters, or when she delivers Abysmal Vortex, 1 point of shiver is obtained in exchange for consuming 1 point of trance. On top of that, everyone receives a bit of healing as well. But what happens when she has 3 shivers? Well, this is where we have to talk about the resonance skill. You see, by default, it just deals a bit of damage and generates 1 trance. However, when she's in Mirage mode, the skill becomes Flickering Reverie attack, which will damage and apply this hazy dream state for 6.5 seconds. You can see the enemy becomes super slow, which is pretty cool. However, if she damages again, then they will receive jolt damage and the state ends. But there's also a third type of this skill, which is only possible when Cantarella has all 3 shivers and is in Mirage mode. Now, by pressing the skill, she will unleash her hardest hitting attack called Perception Drain, which will consume all shivers and even heal for a decent amount the whole team. It's also important to note this attack is crucial for her, because it will generate a ton of concerto. Now, moving over to her Resonance Liberation, aside from dealing decent damage, it will also now allow anyone in the team to trigger coordinated attacks up to 21 times in the form of a buff called Diffusion. On top of that, she will also generate 3 out of her 5 trances. Last but not least, her intro skill will also generate 1 trance and enable her next basic attack to be the 3rd hit of the combo. But more importantly, for the next 25 seconds, whenever anyone in the team uses their Echo skill, she will recover 6 concerto points, up to 6 times. And get this, her Liberation and both the Mirage and Forte skills counts as using an Echo skill, so she'll end up utilizing most of this buff just by herself. Although I'm sure those who prefer playing quick swap teams will find ways to maximize this cool intro skill ability. By the way, since these mentioned abilities count as Echo skills, her second inherent skill actually boosts her Havoc damage up to 12%, which will occur basically naturally, and then her first inherent skill boosts her healing. So, long story short, Cantarella is all about building up those trances and exchanging them into 3 shivers, which then are used to unleash the hardest hitting Forte skill. And if we take a look at one of the recommended rotations, assuming she's starting with the intro, follow it up immediately with a 3rd basic attack, then use her skill and Liberation, followed by heavy attack, which puts her into Mirage, and then use her skill once more, and do a full 3-hit combo. And by now, she can unleash the powerful Forte skill, and afterwards, use the Echo and swap out. On second rotation onwards, you won't need to do the 3rd basic attack at start, since she should have enough concerto by then, thanks to the intro skill concerto generation. Oh, right, I guess one funny thing worth mentioning would be that while swimming, she actually generates trances, and by holding the attack, she can emerge from the water and beat up enemies near the shore. I know that's one siren I wouldn't mind getting beat up by. Anyway, let's continue with the build section. Alright, one thing to keep in mind is that almost the entirety of Cantarella's damage is considered as basic attack damage type, so that will be important when discussing build options. And here's the recommended skills leveling priority you can see on the screen right now. But yeah, let's first talk about weapons, because boy oh boy do I have some crazy news to share with you. Her signature, get this, is her best in slot. I know, right? Anyway, it's got a fat crit damage substat, but the passive is also nothing to scoff at, and it will basically provide her with 40% basic attack damage boost, and she will ignore 12% of enemies' havoc resistance. Still, surprisingly enough, the next best option is about 11% weaker, and it's the Rhyme Draped Sprouts, which is quite fitting since this is Jeji's signature weapon, and Cantarella also can utilize it quite well. Next we have String Master, which is actually almost on par with the Sprouts weapon, but it still lags behind a little, so keep that in mind. The other two options, Luminous Hymn and Cosmic Ripples, sadly fall off even more, with Luminous Hymn having a bit more firepower. But if you don't have any of these 5-star options, then going with the Battle Pass Rectifier Augment can be a decent 4-star option, but at this point, when comparing it to her signature, it's gonna be about 20 to 30% weaker. And yeah, if you don't even have this, then going with Jinzo Keeper or Fusion Accretion is fine. Okay, moving over from the depressively limiting weapon options, at least the echoes are super fun to explore because, believe it or not, there's 5 different echo sets Cantarella can utilize quite well. Okay, in reality, she has one main DPS set, which is the Havoc Eclipse, and this set is worth going for if you want to prioritize her personal damage, which is really nice with all things considered. And then you could also use Nightmare version of Crownless. But if you want to build her as a support, then there's 4 options. And starting with Midnight Veil, this is the recommended set if Camellia isn't the team, since it will boost her havoc damage by 15%, which is great, and then you should use Lorelei as the active echo, since she gives both 12% havoc and basic attack damage boost, just like that. Next we have the Empyrean set with Hecate as the active echo. This set is best for when you want to provide a nice generic 20% attack boost to the active unit, while at the same time, this set will also boost Cantarella's coordinated attacks, although they don't contribute that much to her overall damage, but it's better than nothing. Plus, she also gets 10% energy regen, which is super useful as you'll see soon why. Now, there's also a Moonlit set with Heron as the active echo, and if you watched any of my videos before, you know I always show this set whenever I have the opportunity, and yeah, it's also great on Cantarella, but she will have a lot less personal damage to offer, so don't forget that. Still, this set's buff is amazing for someone who's non-Havoc DPS like Jinchi or Carlotta. Oh, and also, Rejuvenating set, let's not forget about it. But just like with Moonlit set, it doesn't help her fully realize her damage potential, and I'd only recommend this as a last resort. But moving over, here's a quick overview of her stats. You want to focus on 4-3-3-1-1 loadout and go for crit rate or crit damage 4 cost, double havoc 3 costs, but it's fine if one of them is attack percent, and of course, attack percent 1 costs. And as for substats, just try to first get around 130% energy regen, since that is the sweet spot usually, although it can differ from team to team. Otherwise, just focus on critical rate or damage, attack percent, and then basic attack damage substats. Finally, we get to my favorite part of the video, team comps. So, first things first, Cantarella's outro is quite powerful. For 14 seconds after triggering it, next unit's havoc damage is amplified by 20% and skill damage by 25%. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind would be Camellia, since both this outro and Midnight Veil will boost Camellia's damage by quite a bit. And I'd say for the last team member, Shorekeeper is a great pick, but Verena works too. Now, Jinchi is also another unit who will love Cantarella, since her outro will amplify skill damage, something that Jinchi does a lot of. And then if you pair her with Verena, both of their coordinated attacks will quickly allow Jinchi to unleash her most devastating dragon attacks. Same goes for Carlotta. She will easily take advantage of that skill damage boost Cantarella provides. In fact, you could even go for some other skill damage based teammates like Changli or even Yinlin. And there's also Dunjin who can work with her, although she usually doesn't want too much healing to mess with damage, but it's still viable at least to try for fun. Same goes for Havoc Rover. It's a team you can try out with a dedicated healer or support like Verena. Finally, if you just want to see those big assets maximized that Cantarella offers, just go with the classic Sanhua and Shorekeeper or Verena combo and turn her into a dedicated DPS unit. It's time to talk about the sequences and whether it's better to go for them or the signature weapon. And starting with the first sequence, her skill will now recover 1 more trance, and all the versions of the skill will now receive a big boost in damage. Plus, she will be immune to interruption while casting the Forte skill, which is a really nice quality of life benefit. But the second sequence is also quite OP. Her Liberation now applies Hazy Dream, and the Jolt does a ton more damage. So pretty cool way to wake up enemies with a hard slap to the face. Now, sequence 3 is also packing some heat because her Liberation will deal way more damage, and it will allow her to enter Mirage mode, so no need to do her heavy attack anymore. As for the fourth sequence, not gonna lie, it's pretty meh, but it increases healing basically. And then S5 allows her to unleash 5 more coordinated attacks, which is pretty great. And then finally her S6, in a nutshell, allows her to ignore enemies' defense and does a bunch more stuff that's way too good. But let's talk about the hard choices we need to make: signature or sequences. I'd say the signature offers a pretty strong boost, but the first 2 sequences are also quite amazing. So if you don't have Jeji's or Yinlin's signatures, or you don't want to share them, then going for signature makes sense. Otherwise, S1 and S2 are amazing boosts for Cantarella, and even great to pursue them when she has signature as well. Anyway, that's pretty much it when it comes to this guide. I hope you found it useful, and I'd really appreciate it if you could press the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and see you soon.